So I would love to welcome the second presentation that will be made by Lidia Zaynullina from High School of Economics. And I'll now switch to Russian. Электронный симулятор уборки как средство снижения эмоциональной тревоги путем виртуализации изолирующего пространства.
Добрый день, дорогие коллеги.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon.
I wanted to remind you that you all can click on the icon of the globe, and that will be an interpreting for you because somebody did not understand it yesterday. Okay. So thank you.
Все видно, правильно понимаю?
Can you see the slides?
Прекрасно.
Perfect.
Еще раз всем добрый день.
Hello, everyone, once again. So the topic of my talk is an e-simulator of cleaning up as a means of decreasing anxiety. While designing my research, I aim to build an app which would be of use to both common users in its therapeutic qualities and to researchers, as it could be used as a model to double-check the hypothesis. I believe that such an app will be of great use because it can be of practical help, that people will be able to use it for self-help if they find themselves in a stressful situation. And I will explain how this app is going to function and the results of our first test. In 2019, the situation in the world changed abruptly, which introduced a lot of changes into our lives. Some of them were desirable, some were not. During the lockdown, people are focused on self-care and on staying healthy. During the lockdown, most of the population got to know the term self-isolation and had to stay indoors. Though it's not really comfortable for everyone to spend all their time in their apartments. Based on the statistical data that I'm going to share in a moment, we can see that the level of stress rises, and we can see that having the same background all the time with no changes influences the well-being, negatively influences the well-being of people. We can use mobile apps or computer games to deal with that. The users of video games of all kinds have grown in numbers since the beginning of the lockdown, which seems appealing to me as a designer and as a researcher. I want to build a product which will have an anti-stress effect, and I will also check the hypothesis through the virtualization of the issue I aim to solve. This research will clarify the ways of self-regulation through digitization and contemporary technologies. Smartphones are extremely available now, and their own therapy grows. Different hospitals and doctors use smartphones not just to collect data and monitor the state of their patients, but also for therapy. The overall tendency is to use mobile phones during unstable emotional experiences. However, the use of mobile phones under stress is not clear in its effect because we don't know the causality. As for different ways to cope with anxiety, the current data suggests that to return back to the balanced state, people use emotional mental strategies they have, including problem-oriented planning, taking responsibility, positive reevaluation, or avoiding stress and avoiding the problem. Our app exists in between two different kinds of games. to different genres of games, and it is an app which will let people take responsibility. It aims to resolve the situation through virtualization of the problem. This piece of research is following design-based research methodology, which is about flexible approach. And the hypothesis will be tested in iteration. We will be able to borrow on qualitative and quantitative data. In the framework of the research, we suggested the hypothesis of self-regulation through a digital tool. We built an app called Clarity, in which the user can clean up a virtual space. We also organized a series of interviews. The interviews were done with the students of the High School of Economics over the age of 18. 17 respondents were part of the research. Most of the questions were aiming at trying to understand the overall stress background, number of sleep hours, the number of hours of phone usage daily, but the main question was introducing a stressful situation on the respondents artificially through a math test. Before I analyze the app itself, I think it is important to set our research question: does virtual space have therapeutic potential? And I suggest that we keep to this question while analyzing Clarity. First of all, one has to say that many people daily have to encounter stress, which inhibits their daily life. Anxiety destabilizes our emotional state. The current data suggests that people use a series of methods to return to a more balanced state, which have been analyzed already. My research is based on the problem-oriented design methodology, and in other words, I'm thinking through specific acts that could help people deal with anxiety. Due to the corona pandemic, we are growing more and more dependent on technology, which can cause a lot of anxiety. But in my research, I consider the implementation of technology positively. In particular, I suggest that we consider using apps for therapy. We can also consider an app as a full-fledged virtual space that can influence a human being and grant some relief. A mobile app makes this help available anywhere and at any time. Now I will explain the app itself just a second.
Все ли видно?
Can you see it? In the app, we create a virtual space which switches the user's attention to an artificially created problem, and thus we regulate the reaction to a real problem. Through a research and engineering work, Clarity can be described in the following manner. It is an app which is a simulator of mobile cleanup. It distracts the user from real-life problems. During our test run, we saw that a few minutes spent in the app calms a person down. A respondent said that it helped them relax. It granted them a state of flow through monotonous actions. There are 3 scenarios of actions, and they have all different end goals, can be used for different levels of immersion. Let's take a look at the cleanup mode. The main game mode is cleanup. Sorry, Lydia. We are seeing just a gray screen. Is that what you meant?
Секунду. Так, лучше. Чудно. Итак, вернемся к уборке.
So the cleanup mode. The game process here is basically need to clean up the room, and the difficulty of different actions has different levels. What is required of the user is intuitively understandable. It grants the cumulative effect of relief. The bigger the chaos is, or the bigger the element is, the bigger the effort one can make, and the bigger the relief one gets to at the end. This looks like a drop of paint, though it's quite easy to eliminate. It will disappear in just a few touches.
Следующим видом грязи можно считать
The next level is this rubbish that you can see. You can use a vacuum cleaner. All you need to do is to keep your finger on top of such piles of dirt for some time.
Последний вид грязи – это комок пыли. Он
And the
выглядит
last kind of dirt is dust. Literally, it looks alien. It is quite hard to get rid of it. You will have to rub into it until it disappears.
Да, теперь также стоит рассказать, что другим важным компонентом для
Another
достижения
important component for relaxation is the soundtrack that you can hear. As the main sound, you can hear kalimba sounds, separate notes, separate pitches sound like bells ringing in the wind. We also studied a few pieces of research that dealt with relaxing sounds, and existing data shows the particular characteristics that a musical piece has to have to be relaxing for a human being. To enhance this effect, we took these pieces of research into account.
Второй режим функционирования – это
The second level of functioning is the mode of destruction, which is available from home screen. Here you can get rid of your emotions using a destroying tool, and you're welcome to introduce the level of chaos you would like to.
У нас теперь остались только настенные часы.
All we have left is the clock on the wall.
Так вот мы разрушили комнату.
Okay, so we have just destroyed the whole room. Now let's go back to the home screen where I will show you the last mode of the game. It's called Design and it's available from the home screen. It pushes your fantasy. Before we switch to that mode, we need to clean first. We need to clean the room up.
В режиме дизайна игрок может расставлять объекты,
In the
которые
design mode,
в свою личную коллекцию, которая видна в
you're welcome to use any objects that were gathered in the personal collection of the player. This mode of function is also an important step on the way towards relaxation because very often we feel that this situation is unsolvable. So we give all the cards to the player that we can completely recreate the situation. Here, the player can fill the space up with any objects they like, forming a virtual safe space. I will now recollect a piece of interior through the accumulated objects here in my personal collection.
Вот такой немного незамысловатый получился интерьер.
The
Однако он
interior design is quite simplistic, but let's call it minimalist. So let's skip it this way. Let me go back to my paper.
Стоит принять во внимание, что некоторые условности и установки были приняты за основу для проведения тестирования и опроса.
We took some conventions as the background for our work. In our methodology, we were quite experimental. Some people ask us whether we can think that this is a real research, because scientific research is basically trying hypotheses. It may sound more like a working process and a test run, but then the question is, what is the foundation for research, the process itself or the product? Here I turn to design-based research, and I have to say that the interviews were taken with quite a small sample, 17 people. We cannot project the results of this research on broader audience, but since the hypothesis was proven through this research, we can make another hypothesis that bigger populations, it will also work. So we will just need more data. Now I would like to show the interview results very shortly.
В целях верификации результатов было
To
проведено
verify the results, we did a focus test with a sample of students.
по времени сценариям использования, и включавшее в себя самоанализ эмоционального состояния, настроения.
It included a self-analysis of mental activity and emotional state of the respondents. Here are our observations. Most of the respondents said that they were under stress to this or that extent, and more than 50% of them feel more than averagely stressed regularly. Here is the age of the respondents. The majority of them is 18-25. These are university students or young graduates. this category of people is under a lot of stress, which was supported with our data. Work and studying influences the stress levels a lot. The next thing is sudden emergency situations. Here we can see the sleep hours. Most of the respondents please sleep from 6 to 8 hours, so we can conclude that they're not deprived of sleep. Here is the result. The average level of test is around 3 out of 5 points.
Вы начинаете отнимать немножко время от всех.
Sorry, we have only 5 minutes left for your talk, and that means that we'll have less time for the Q&A section. Yeah, just a couple of minutes. Most of the respondents said that after using the app, their stress level was lower. They liked how simple the actions they had to make were.
Возвращаясь к докладу, стоит сказать, что рассмотренный в исследовании материал, приведенные данные
The materials considered in the research and the data we got from the interviews and the design solution, which we can use for checking hypothesis, has a lot of practical use. It can be of use for psychologists who work in behaviorist approaches and Gestalt approaches. Since we have not just a practical framework, but also a theoretical framework, our approaches can be used for designing other apps. Another way of practical usage of data could be UI and UX. To sum up, we can see that the tendency towards virtualization in the world is an important indication that we must keep on working on the app, and we need more research, definitely. Thank you very much, and I will be happy to answer your questions.
Спасибо большое, Лидия. Есть ли вопросы?
Any questions?
Было много комментариев. Да,
There were a lot of comments in the chat
от Клаудиуса, от
from Claudius, from Finja, that Claudius said he was feeling more relaxed even as he was watching. And it was a comment about the great sound design too. Then I will ask my own question while others thinking. Well, taste Zephyr, of course. Maybe I just need to try it. I mean, when I saw how you were breaking the room up, I started thinking this is a great way of dealing with stress, right? To shout or to break something. But when you were breaking the room, well, I mean, when you're cleaning up, yeah, it's great that it's so kawaii, it is so sweet. But when you're breaking it, I want it to be more realistic. So I want to see the scattered pieces of furniture, but what stays there is just dust. So that was my first reaction. I want to see how it all breaks down, to see that this is like the bed falling to pieces. That was my feeling, that this aesthetics of destruction, I think, can be enhanced. I agree with you, I got your point. I think that this is a technical lag. I mean, this is work in progress, and we're going to work on the visuals too. And maybe that's true that we keep it too nice in a way. Initially, we wanted to make this mode like we wanted this mode of destruction to contrast the main mode of cleaning up. So we wanted the destruction mode to cause, this real feeling of destructive behavior. So I think we will work on that bit. We will work on that mode. We'll make this destruction more juicy, so to speak. But thank you very much for your words. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments?
Ну, тогда я еще тоже спрошу. Вы,
Then I will ask another question if you don't mind.
вы просто, я, по всей видимости, был одним из тех, кто читал вашу заявку. Да, я
I
в
was one of those who read through your application, and in the comments, I suggested connecting what you do with Buddhist practices like a stone garden. And I heard that Buddhists use cleaning up as one of their religious practices. At least I heard it in one of the pieces of
жизнь пишет о том, что
research on the religion of everyday life.
когда их спрашивают, да,
That research said that
религиозных практик, и часто
for
одна из
Buddhists,
частых
cleaning up is often a religious practice.
и возникло сразу же ощущение, что да, может быть, эти практики действительно являются такими медитативными.
And I felt that maybe that's true, that these practices are close to meditation, they are relaxing, and this is why they work.
Да, действительно, на самом деле я тут соглашусь, но
Yeah,
также
I
я
agree
хотела
with
бы
you here
добавить,
completely,
что
but I would like to add
уборка,
something.
она может считаться неким ритуалом.
Cleaning up can be sort of
Думаю, что
as a
можно
ritual.
предположить, что большинство
I
людей
think we can
видят
guess
это
that
как
most
часть
people, or at least
время
some
уборки
part of
используют
people,
как преображение пространства.
feel like they are
На
changing
самом
the
деле
space
это
around them
часто
while cleaning
эмоциональное
up.
явление, когда люди
And I
думают,
know
что
that
его
it happens quite
условности изменили
often
свой
when people
статус.
think that they cleaned up
Я думаю, это не
their room,
обязательно
they
важно.
feel like they
Это
arranged
случается только в
their
буддизме, потому
life,
что
they made it
не только
better.
это
I think it
буддистское
is not limited to Buddhism. It
есть
is
такая
a
тенденция,
kind of a
что
widespread
уборка
tendency to think
является
that cleaning
ритуальным
up
процессом.
is a kind of a ritual process.
Спасибо. Особенно интересно здесь то, что
Thank you so much. I think what is particularly interesting here and what can go very well with some self-help books that became very popular during the pandemic. Here, it's very hard for me to think about a very specific reference because I remember that there was a Harvey's book on cleaning up, but I remember that there are some articles that compared the influence of a meditation on the brain with the influence exerted by games. So there might be some meditative games that could really bring you up to nirvana state. Yeah, but that's just a wild idea. Maybe, as far as I understand, Daria Zuyeva disconnected from us, and that is disappointing because she's been speaking about death and some other issues that were close to what we're discussing. Daria, are you still with us? No, I think she sort of failed to follow us through to the end. Are there any other questions or comments to this talk by Lidia? If not, then let's thank our speaker, Lidia Zaynullina. Thank you very much.